Gukesh responds back with e5, the king's pawn opening. The knight comes out to f3, attacking the pawn in the center. Gukesh defends it with knight c6. You have the Italian or the Ruy Lopez that is usually played at the top level. Wesley so goes for the Ruy Lopez. He goes bishop b5. And Gukesh plays knight f6, the Berlin. Now this is a move that Gukesh doesn't play very so often. Castles has been played and Gukesh chops off the pawn on e4. Will we go into a Berlin endgame with a d4, knight d6 line? No, Wesley plays this calm and solid rook e1 strategy. Knight goes back to d6, attacking the bishop. Knight takes on e5. He captures the pawn. Bishop comes out to e7, just blocking the e file, and Wesley drops back his bishop to f1. Gukesh chops off the knight on e5. Rook takes on e5. He castles here. And now knight comes out to c3. It's all well-known theory and has been played on many occasions. Gukesh goes bishop f6, attacking the rook here. And Wesley brings back his rook. Now the main move in this position is rook e8. But Gukesh goes knight f5. And here Wesley has to be careful. He goes knight d5 after some think, attacking the bishop here. And Gukesh goes bishop h4. This is a novelty, a new idea. g3 played here by Wesley. And Gukesh plays c6. His point is, of course, if you take on h4, he's going to play d5, take on d5, and the king is weak. So bishop h3 played, a very weird position where the bishop is hanging, the knight is hanging, and this is hanging here. So knight d4 played by Gukesh, saving his knight. And now a normal move is knight e3. When Gukesh can go back bishop f6 and it's okay, but he takes on h4 and all of a sudden the position becomes very wild because Gukesh takes in the center. Now Wesley has the bishop pair, but the king side is a bit broken up, and c3 played here, attacking the knight on d4. Gukesh chops off the pawn on h4, attacking the bishop on h3. The bishop comes back to g2. So the knight is hanging and also the pawn on d5 is attacked. So Gukesh comes back knight f5. The opening has been a good success for Gukesh here. He's doing well with the black pieces. d4 played. And now a very good idea is a5 with the idea of rook a6 and swinging the rook over. It's a very interesting move that could potentially be played. But Gukesh goes d6. And he opens up the path for the bishop. He takes bishop d5 here. And now Gukesh goes bishop to e6. A very decent move. If you take here, and rook takes e6, then already rook a e8 is completely better for black. So that's the reason why you can't take that pawn. Wesley goes and chops off the b7 pawn. Well, I'm pretty sure that Gukesh did not mind that because he has rook b8 or even rook e8. This is a bit like this Marshall Gambit kind of compensation where you have all your pieces beautifully positioned. Bishop c6 played, and now a very interesting move here for black is d5. Because you let him take here and try to attack on the king side. But instead Gukesh goes rook e7. And this is not particularly a great move. Because now what Wesley can do is simply play bishop d2. Yes, he does it. And it's now he's connected the rooks. This is a bit awkward here. d5 played, trying to block the path of the bishop. But queen f3 is pretty strong now. Getting the queen closer to the defense, and Wesley plays it. He brings his queen to f3. Now attacking the pawn on d5, and Gukesh brings his queen back. And of course, very tricky here. If bishop d5, there is queen g6, king h1 and knight h4. That can get very nasty. So king h1 directly played here by Wesley. He's playing this quite carefully and calmly. He's a pawn up and has the bishop pair. Things are looking up for Wesley. If he can also get his bishop back into the game, he would be quite happy. Queen g6 played. And again, if you see Gukesh, if rook here, he has knight h4 prepped up. So rook e5 played. The better move here was bishop f4, trying to get the bishop on a better diagonal. But rook e5 also looks very strong, threatening rook g1. Bishop goes back to c8. Maybe a better idea was knight h4, but bishop c8 played. And Wesley chops off the pawn on d5. Bishop takes d5 taken. And after rook takes e5, d takes e5 played. And he plays rook to d8, attacking the bishop and also the bishop here on d2. Now rook comes to g1, and already big problems here. He goes knight h4. But queen f4 is very strong because now the knight is hanging. The queen is attacked. Oh, he takes on d5, giving up the queen. Rook takes g6. Knight takes back on g6, attacking the queen. But if you look at this position carefully, you will realize that Wesley is now a queen up for a rook and a knight. And he also has 2 extra pawns. So Gukesh is lost here. He goes h5. Pawn to c4, attacking the rook. And if rook takes e5, then I can go and chop off the a7 pawn. So he goes rook d8 back. Pawn comes up to f3. Gukesh pushes his pawn to h4. And Wesley brings his king into the game now. The bishop comes to e6. The c4 pawn is hanging. Wesley defends it with pawn to b3. And now h3 pushed forward, taking away the g2 square. And he comes up king to f2. And he plays pawn to a6. King e2 played with the idea of queen b6 and taking the a6 pawn. And the bishop comes back to c8. Well, how long can black hold on to this position? The bishop is now coming into d6, which would be super strong. He plays f6 here. And Wesley takes ef6, gf6. And he brings his bishop to a5. The rook is running out of squares here. It's just completely dominant position. The c pawn can run down. Gukesh resigns. Wesley wins. And after the game, it was pretty nice to see how they both were trying to analyze with each other. But a big win for Wesley So here, who took his chances in the opening. Gukesh did try something new in this.